Okay, so we'll get started. Thank you so much for everyone for taking some time to watch our presentation on why we're investing in condos in Calgary. So my name's Alex Wilson, team lead of alexjwilson.com and broker owner of Remax Wealth Builders Real Estate. We have Kyle, depending on the side you're looking at, co-founder of Remax Wealth Builders Real Estate and also an investment expert, and our feet on the ground in Calgary. We have Mark below us, representative from Minto Wise, to answer any questions, fill in the gaps for us Torontonians for what's really happening in Calgary. So Mark, thank you for the time. And anyone, Kyle, do you want to give them the spiel on the questions wise, what they need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone has any questions during the session, please enter them into the Q&A panel. It's just a little button at the bottom of the Zoom webinar screen, and we'll be sure to answer all of them before the session ends. It just allows us to stay organized and make sure we don't miss anything.
Great, perfect. I just see Natasha wrote that it's a webinar, so you don't need to mute. There's no video on your end. There's no audio on your end. Everyone just sees and hears the panelists wise. So it's webinar versus if you were in a Zoom meeting. So what we'll go over is I have my presentation that I do on Calgary, and I walk people through why I've invested in Calgary, why I like Calgary, why I see upside. We go through the lease back program, how that works. So all the units in this project are cash flow positive, why something is difficult to find in Toronto. And then we'll open it up to questions. We're going to try to keep this, we are going to keep this to an hour today. So we are going to be stopping at noon or earlier. Again, be sure to get your questions in early and fast so we get to them at the end of the presentation. So I'll share my screen now with everyone here. So as I said, my name's Alex Wilson, team lead and broker of record at Remax Wealth Builders Real Estate. I've been selling real estate in Toronto for 11 years. Last year was a #1 individual agent for Remax for transactions in Ontario, number 25 individual agent for Remax in Canada, and number 80 in the world for dollar volume wise that we sold. Inducted into the Remax Hall of Fame, also awarded the Remax Lifetime Achievement Award at 35. I'm currently 38 right now, and all that's great. But what's really I'm most proud of my success is my actual real estate portfolio wise. So not only do I sell real estate, I buy real estate. And my initial investment, my first investment condo, which is the same building that Kyle bought into, it was a deposit of $39,300, and I've turned that into a $14 million portfolio, which includes 14 condos, a High Park triplex, and an apartment building in Hamilton. And why 39,300 is very relevant to this Calgary presentation is I can't get that deposit anymore in Toronto. It doesn't exist. So you can't do what I did in Toronto anymore. So you got to find another market where you see upside, where you can get in at a low point of entry. And that's what Calgary has to offer. So you can get in with that low deposit amount, which allow you to grow your portfolio. Or if you already have a portfolio and are looking for growth opportunities with low entry costs, Calgary also offers that as well. So I'm very transparent on everything I do. This is the portfolio that I built off of that initial deposit of $39,300. And everything is a long and boring game in real estate wise. So I like to show people what my portfolio is worth in 10 years, in 20 years, and in 30 years. And why 30 years is relevant is that if I were to do nothing, and anyone that's watched my leverage portfolio, I spend a lot of time on this slide. If I do nothing and I just keep my properties and they're all rented out, at the end of 30 years, my portfolio will be worth $33 million. And 30 years is relevant because my mortgages all have 30-year amortizations. And what the key thing is there's a tenant in each of these properties that's paying down the mortgage. So as the years go on, the mortgage amount goes down because there's a tenant paying it, and the value of the real estate goes up. So it's just long and boring. You just keep tenanted properties and eventually they'll be paid off. So why Calgary? I mentioned that I started with $39,300. That was my initial deposit I put on a Toronto condo. I cannot do that anymore. You're looking at minimum investment $100,000 just to get into the Toronto market wise, minimum wise. So you have to look outside of Toronto to see where those value opportunities are. So I had a great meeting with someone last night. We've been doing these Zoom calls. I usually have 1 or 2 Zoom calls a day talking to people why they should be investing in Calgary wise. And it was a great chat because Calgary is a tier 1 city. And this couple, they had investments in London, Ontario. And I said, well, what did you pay for your London, Ontario property? And they said, well, it was over 400,000. And I'm like, isn't it crazy that London, Ontario, a second tier city, is getting over $400,000 for that condo wise. And here we are in Calgary, which is lower cost than London, Ontario. And specifically the project we're focusing in on, it's prime Calgary real estate wise. So, you know, when we look at Calgary, it's the #1 most livable city in North America for 2 consecutive years. 4th most livable city in the world. Top 5 on the Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Livability Index for 10 consecutive years. The Rocky Mountains are your backyard. Banff National Park, a true treasure in Canada-wise, globally known, attracting everyone around the world. You can go there every weekend. Mark has a cabin that he goes to every weekend out in the Rocky Mountains. You know, we can only dream of that. Tons of green space and the lowest cost of living, lowest cost of living of Canadian cities and 9th lowest in North America. You know, when we talk about cost of living lowest wise, you don't get that in GTA. Like there's no association of lowest cost in GTA. So especially when we look at COVID now, what COVID's done and which has really opened up people's ability to work in a different location than where they live, I really see Calgary benefiting from this, from the fact that they're the #1 most livable city in North America wise. You have the Rocky Mountains as your playground. And when I look at, we'll get into it more, but when I look at the time zone, Mountain Standard Time that Calgary's in, and we look at the tech jobs that they're attracting, that is a much, the time zone in Calgary is more aligned with Silicon Valley in the US, only an hour difference versus a 3-hour difference in Toronto. So it just makes things more efficient for working wise, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So also when we look at, it's the sunniest city in Canada, most extensive outdoor pathways, so you can get out. It's a really outdoor city wise, and ranks 2nd for healthiest lifestyle and life satisfaction of all the major cities in Canada. Again, when we look at where people are going to be looking to make their new home, which is going to result from COVID wise, really people have been looking at, well, why am I living where I'm living? Calgary is poised to really benefit from this. And then just outside of the city, as we mentioned, the Rocky Mountains are your backyard. 5 world-class ski resorts within 2 hours. We have Blue Mountain, which Mark calls their Bunny Hill. We're not even in the same conversation. Over 200 hiking trails in Banff National Park, and it's only a 1.5-hour drive away. When we talk about a 1.5-hour drive, it's only a 1.5-hour drive. Muskoka may only be 2 or 2.5 hours from Toronto-wise, but that's if there's no traffic at 2 a.m. in the morning. You know, at a long weekend time, you're taking 4 hours to get up in Muskoka, and you're stuck in traffic. You don't have that here. You don't have the same traffic worries. So again, only an hour and a half, and you are literally in the Canadian Rockies. So when we look at the population as well, Calgary has net population growth of 10,000 per year. And Mark last week corrected me. He said it was 30,000 in 2019. So you have a positive population growth happening in Calgary. Calgary has the highest millionaires per capita of all the Canadian cities. And Calgary represents the highest wages and salaries per employee in the country at 66,000. So you have the high salaries. You have the concentration of wealth. You have net population growth. But we've been seeing decreased pricing in the Calgary market. Calgary is a typical boom and bust city. So the opportunity is catching it on the bust wise for when the next boom happens. So why is Alex buying condos in Calgary? Well, first of all, following the money. So Minto, if anyone's familiar with developments in Toronto, Ontario, Minto is one of the top builders in Canada, really. They do significant building in Ottawa. They've built landmark properties in Toronto. I own in their properties wise. They also do development in Florida. So now they're investing in Calgary because like I see opportunity, they see opportunity. So Minto, a $1 billion plus company wise, with a huge head office full of analysts wise, if those analysts are advising Minto to invest in Calgary because they see opportunity, I'm going to piggyback off their analysts and go, hey, if they see opportunity, I see opportunity. I'm going to follow their money out to Calgary wise. So the Era, which launched last year, Mark worked with us, completely sold out. So those 180 units for Era completely sold out. Those sold out in January. Annex, which is their latest development wise, that one there is the launch that we're working on right now. It is under construction right now, and that has 108 units wise. So that's the next project that they're working on in Calgary wise. But the first project that they did completely sold out in Calgary, and I personally bought in that project. So the buy low, sell high. Calgary is associated with oil and gas. And there's been a lot of negativity in regards to the energy markets wise. Warren Buffett just bought a pipeline. It's his first major deal in 4 years. And why I post this on here is he sees the stability, the opportunity now in energy pricing wise, and the long-term need for energy. So he's made an investment in the oil and gas sector wise. The same thing where I look at the buy low, sell high opportunity wise, new condo sales have dropped 21%. Pricing wise, new condo sales have dropped 21% since 2017. So I have people call me going, well, what's the growth been in Calgary? And because they're so used to buying in Toronto, I'm like, there hasn't been growth. It's been going down. And going down is a good thing. Going down is a great thing because we're going to get in at the bottom of the market wise. And when you get in at the bottom of the market, that's when you see opportunity for growth. So new condo sales have dropped, new condo sales prices have dropped 21%. So this is our opportunity to get in at the low pricing wise. Distribution and diversification. So we've talked about the net population growth in the Calgary market wise. There's two things, again, we mentioned Calgary, it's an oil and gas based economy wise, that's what you associate it with. There is diversification in the economy, but I will always get the question, what about oil prices? So one of the main issues with Alberta oil, it's not about the worldwide price of oil, it's actually the distribution of oil. In 2020, Alberta oil was selling 50% less than Texas oil. Oil is oil. The problem is that it's a landlocked province, and to get the oil out, you need pipelines. You can't just put it on a boat to get it out of the Alberta market wise. So they've been stuck selling majority of the oil to the US. So it's a sole source customer for the most part, which has impacted their ability to trade their oil on the open market wise. So that's where we see significant discounts on Alberta oil versus a worldwide oil price because we don't have the ability to distribute to other markets until the Trans Mountain Pipeline is complete. Now the Trans Mountain Pipeline is owned by all Canadians here on this call. It is under construction. Construction has been begun, and like Mark likes to point out, this is just doubling an existing pipeline. It's from an environmental impact, it's very minimal because we're not building a new pipeline, we're just expanding the capacity of a current one. We're doubling that. So we're just Imagine a railroad with 2 tracks. Well, we're just adding another 2 tracks to that. That's all that is. And that will significantly increase distribution to the West Coast, which will allow Canada to diversify our markets, especially to the to Asia. So you get your major oil consumers, India, China, and various countries that now you can export the oil to. Countries that require significant amount of energy. If we just include India and China, half the population of the entire world, huge energy needs today and moving into the future wise. So when we look at the pipeline, it's scheduled to complete in 2023. That is going to significantly benefit Alberta oil, which will lead to a positive benefit to Calgary wise. And Mark, do you want to add in anything on that? Because I know you like jumping in on this part where I talk about pipelines. Oh, we got him muted. I got to unmute him.
That's better. Now you can hear me.
There you go. Now you can hear me.
So yeah, the Trans Mountain was a huge thing that and it's being built right now. I think it's close to 800 to 900,000 barrels a day that will have the capacity of. So that's really big for Alberta, Western Canada, of course. And somebody told me, I haven't verified this, I need to look it up, that the first tanker has gone from the West Coast down through Panama and back up to Newfoundland.
It went to New Brunswick to the Irving.
Irving, yeah.
Yeah, that happened.
And so that's another avenue that they're looking at as well. So that could be really good news as well. Just to reiterate on the migration, I made a little bit of an error last week, and I had to look it up after I was talking to you, after we were on the webinar. So the last year we created 30,000 jobs. So 30,000 jobs, and that was my mistake. And close to 20,000 in migration. So, but if you look at 20,000 Calgary versus the migration percentage in Toronto, it's close to that sort of percentage. So that's a huge number. And as Alex had pointed out, with COVID hitting and people and companies realizing that more people can work out of their homes, why would you be locked into into a place where like downtown Vancouver or something, where you could come out to Calgary and still be in a major city and have the amazing lifestyle that we have here and take for granted all the time. So
yeah, well, and if we compare wise, both you and Vancouver on the door are basically on the doorstep of the Rocky Mountains. The only difference between Vancouver and Calgary is that they have the ocean, you just don't have the ocean.
Right.
You have the full playground of the mountains and everything like that. But the cost of living in Vancouver is significantly more. I would say over double what Calgary is. So
at least, for sure. Yeah. Also, should point out that in 2008, Calgary was equal to Toronto pricing.
Yes.
In terms of real estate.
And that's well, and we'll get more into that in regards to
Sure.
That's where we see huge growth opportunity wise when we talk about taxes and everything like that, and when people start realizing about Calgary. So moving on. So that was distribution. So talking about distribution of oil. Now we have the diversification of the economy wise. Calgary has the highest concentration of high-tech workers of all Canadian cities. So you have the workforce that tech companies will be looking for in order to operate their companies wise. Calgary also ranked in the global top 10 most attractive cities for workers. Again, as we mentioned, it is a place that people actually want to live. Calgary also has the highest proportion of STEM graduates of major Canadian cities. So what this means, and when I found this, I had to look it up. This means the graduates they are producing are graduates in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Again, the same people that tech companies are going to be looking to employ moving to the future wise. And then in regards to my cost basis wise, there is vacancy in Calgary. And the vacancy in Calgary is that in the last boom cycle for oil and gas, they did a significant buildup of commercial office space in Calgary-wise. That has led then to significant vacancy in the Calgary market. Again, not a bad thing. We just look at that as opportunity-wise. So with high vacancy means low rental costs to attract tenants. So you have a low basis-wise for office space in a tier 1 city for companies to move into that office space as well. The Alberta government is very pro-business wise. So not only do they have low taxes, there is no provincial sales tax in Alberta wise, but on top of that, in most recent budget that Jason Kenney is running, that's the premier of Alberta, there's a $10 billion stimulus package for businesses wise. And including that is a cut of corporate taxes wise. So you're already seeing stimulus funds. So there are grants available for tech companies to move into Alberta, but also they are reducing taxes as well. And then you have the low basis of cost for the actual office space there in a tier 1 city that is only an hour time difference away from Silicon Valley. So it is just prime to diversify their economy. And you're already seeing tech companies move into the space because of the low cost environment that it offers.
And just to be super clear, that's the commercial vacancy rate. Which has nothing to do with residential vacancy rates, which are considerably less than that. So.
Yes. This is office vacancy. This is not residential. The rental market is actually very strong in Calgary.
Yeah.
And then when we're talking about diversification wise, when we look at where all the jobs are in Calgary wise, only 6.5% are in that forestry, fishing, mining, quarry, oil, and gas. So it's not that Calgary is fully reliant on the oil and gas industry to propel its economy wise. And then we get into boom and bust. So I've been mentioning the boom and bust. Calgary has gone like this in housing prices wise. And again, I'm going to bring Mark into this because he's the one that's lived there. I think you've been there for 20 years now, right, Mark?
Yeah, I've been here just over 20 years. I came from, met my wife in Ontario, and we decided to move out. We lived in Ottawa and we lived in Toronto for a few years, and we decided to come back out west. And so when we came out here, you're gonna cry when you hear this. I think our first house was $120,000, and so immediately we flipped that one and made some money on it, and I was absolutely hooked on real estate. So over the years, with the boom and bust cycle, I wish I actually had kept a few more of my properties, but we were buying all kinds of stuff, like and the new properties tend to be the best money that we've made on anything. We did buy a couple of fixer-uppers, and that was a mistake, and you'd learn over the years, and I went 100% into new product by about 2004, and that's all we've been buying and selling since then. So I also have other properties that we've held on to, of course, and high cash flow, and we keep those for long term, of course.
You know what? I like that you said the new properties have done the best for you, because here's the great thing. If you buy from a builder that's building a new property, they're the experts in actually building that property and actually to secure the contractors, to quality control, everything like that. Why not let them build the property as opposed to you have the headache wise in regards to sourcing out the contractors and everything like that to do the work, sourcing the materials, all those costs. The actual builder wise is going to get them for the lowest possible cost. And when we go back to Minto wise, from their standpoint, they've been around for 60 years. Again, $1 billion company, $1 billion family behind them wise. Why I say these things is they care about their brand, and they're not going to stop building a project wise. They're moving forward with all their projects. So you don't have to worry about this project not being completed. And then on top of that, this project specifically that we're going to be talking about today, Annex in Kensington, is already under construction and is already above grade as well. So your investment is secured in the fact that it is under construction and will be completed in 2021. So we talk about now the location-wise, the Kensington area, which when people ask me what is that like in Toronto terms, it's like the King or Queen West in Toronto. So your 10-minute walk to the central business district, the core, where the high-rise towers are. You're just on the other side of the Bow River. So I call it, if we put in the Toronto terms, let's say Spadina is the Bow River. We're just on the west side of Spadina-wise. Then you walk into your work, your 10-minute walk away, or you can take the C train, which is their dedicated public transportation line, and they're just literally it's at your doorstep. You can get on the C train and take that right into the core as well. You have your post-secondary institutions, SAIT and Mount Royal. We mentioned it's a 10-minute walk to the Central Business District, 5-minute walk to Green Space Riley Park, 5-minute walk to St. Patrick Island Park and Prince Island Park, and 5-minute walk to the Bow River and its pathways. So really everything is walking distance from this annex location. And then when we talk about Kensington, as I said, they refer to it as the Queen West of Calgary-wise. It's been around for 100+ years. You have those low-rise buildings with restaurants and boutique shopping, the destination point in the neighborhood that people are actually looking to live in. And then they'll go to work just on the other side of the Bow River. And then we have here just a map-wise where you can see all the different retail that's located around the annex site. Cafe, 10 cafes, 15 restaurants, 7 fitness locations, 3 grocery stores. Everything is right at your doorstep. So I'm just going through everything here. Oops, too far. So when I look here, we're able to secure units here with only 5% down. So you only have to put down 5% today. It's $5,000 on signing and the balance of 5% in 45 days. That's the incentive the builder is offering to secure a unit. You have the ability to sign a unit. Now I'm going to put a big asterisk on that because I have a lot of people asking me, oh, maybe I'll buy multiple units and then I'll flip some. Kyle and I have a video line. Only use assignments as an exit clause. If you want to make real money in real estate, it's always about buying and holding. And you've heard Mark say on here that, hey, I wish I kept a few more of those properties instead of flipping them and selling them. So you do have the right to assign, but I want everyone, if you're moving ahead with this, to buy and hold. For what I see in the long-term value of Calgary-wise, you're really going to have to buy and hold to make the real money that you want to make. If you want to have a portfolio like me, it's all about buying and holding. That's a strategy you want to take. Now, with the buying and holding, and this is what's exciting and why we believe in the project and the opportunity, the 3-year rental guarantee, including full property management. And what the rental guarantee is really, it's a lease back from the builder wise. And I'll walk people through what that is in the next slides. But what it gives you is, if you get the unit today, you get keys for the unit, probably summer 2021. Then what you have from 2021 to 2024 is rent coming in the first of the month directly from the builder wise, which is going to be cash flow positive based on today's interest rates. So when we look at, and when I say interest rates, we'll show you like with property tax and with maintenance fees, working it all in. We do a full example by showing you how it's cash flow positive. When you factor all this in, you're not worried about this property until 2024. And as I mentioned, the Trans Mountain Pipeline is scheduled to complete in 2023. The Alberta government is issuing a $10 billion stimulus package to the province of Alberta. This is where we're going to start getting out of the bust period and getting into the boom period wise. And one thing that happens in Calgary, you see rapid escalation of pricing. Isn't that right, Mark, when it takes off?
Yeah, you betcha. In the past, it's usually flat for a couple of years, and then when it starts to take off, it gains momentum really very quickly. The funny thing about Calgary right now is that because the boom was 2014, 2013, and then the bust was really 2015, 16, 17, 18. And then 2019, you could feel it making that comeback again. There's just a lot of pent-up demand in Calgary, and with the stress test, Trans Mountain was put on hold for a while. There was just too many things happening that people were just like, whoa, we're not doing anything. So 2018 was a really, really quiet year. 2019 just gained momentum, and as the year went on, right to the end, you could just feel it going gangbusters. And at the beginning of this year, January, February, March was the best start we'd seen in 6 or 7 years. So as soon as May 1st rolled around, boom, same thing happened. The market's been taking off. There's a lot less property on the market. And I know we're going to get into what the downtown looks like in terms of new construction over the next couple of years. So
yeah, we'll get in that after the example going over the rental guarantee. So talking about the 3-year rental guarantee, which includes full property management. So what that means is there's no extra cost for property management wise. So you're not going to get a call at 2 a.m. in the morning from someone saying they have a clogged toilet. All that's taken care of. Minto discounted the pricing. This initially launched in February, and they've reduced pricing between 8 to 17% on units wise. So we were at the bottom pricing that the builder is willing to sell these units for. They've actually wiped out the profit wise. You are not going to get units for a lower cost than this. The absolute best pricing that you're going to see. And this is amazing for anyone that's bought in Toronto before, and especially bought pre-construction before. No development charges or other closing costs. That could be $20,000 in Toronto, plus no land transfer tax, which again, $20,000 easy in Toronto wise. So your closing costs in Calgary on pre-construction wise is really just your legal fees. On top of that, I don't think I have it in a slide anymore, but there really isn't an occupancy period either in Calgary wise. You go right to close. So there won't be that period where you're paying an occupancy fee for the unit, what some people call the phantom rent. I don't like that term, but there is no occupancy period as well. So really from day one, you're going to be getting the lease back, so guaranteed rent going into your unit wise, and you'll be paying down the mortgage right away. So let's go into an example. So we look at this. This is the Kensington layout. At 651 square feet. We just sold 28 Eastern Avenue this past weekend. Huge demand wise. This was a 2-bedroom in 28 Eastern Avenue. The 2-bedroom there was the C645, which was 645 square feet. You have 2 bedrooms, 2 washrooms. Here you see right here, this study, the number is because it's smaller, but it's 8.2, sorry, 8 feet 2 inches by 7 feet 3 inches. So really the study is a 2nd bedroom in Toronto terms, a large master bedroom as well. And you have a semi-ensuite, so you can access the washroom from the main area, but you can also access it through the master bedroom as well. So a great layout wise. So when I go through the lease back example, so the price on the unit is $338,990. I picked the unit on the 6th floor, unit 609. How that works is you take 6% of the purchase price and you divide it by 12, and that's your monthly rent you're going to be getting every 3 years. So the builder is going to lease back the unit for $1,694.95, the specific unit. So when I do the mortgage, the monthly mortgage, the property tax, the maintenance fee, the lease, and when I apply to the lease back rent, I actually have positive cash flow of $141.20, and it's fully property managed as well. That's based on a 2.3% interest rate with a 30-year amortization, and you can even get interest rates lower than that today. And because this is closing in summer 2021, you're still going to have lower mortgage rates in 2021. The Bank of Canada indicated they're not expecting inflation to grow to 2% until 2022. So you're still going to be in a low interest rate environment into 2021. So this 2.3, which I know you can get lower today, could be even lower in 2021 when you're going to be getting a mortgage on this property wise.
Alex, how long has it been since you could say properties that cash flow day one? Long time.
long time. I don't even know. and especially today, I can't, because we've been, the rental market is absolutely terrible in Toronto wise, which anyone knows on this call. I'm not going to get into that because that could be another 20-minute chat. But yeah, it's difficult in Toronto wise. Again, I believe in Toronto long term. It's blue chip. Rental markets are going to rebound very, very quickly in Toronto wise. But again, I can't get these numbers in Toronto. I can't. It's not possible. It does not exist.
I just spoke to, at our sales center yesterday, one of our buyers at ERA, and one of our local buyers at ERA for that jumped on the rental guarantee. And they were telling me they put one of their other places up for rent, and they couldn't believe the number of calls they got within 36 or 48 hours. They said it was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Everyone on this call, you don't need to take the rental or the lease back option. You could choose to opt out of that and not take that. The builder, I can say frankly, doesn't want to do the lease. Like, it's in their favor to have these units on their books for 3 years. So in Mark's example, where he was saying he had an owner in ERA, which is the last project that Minto launched, which they had a rental guaranteed leaseback program as well. You know, if you see a big difference in the rental value that's opt out, and if you're opting out, that means the cash flow is going to be even better than what they're offering now. Wise. So that's just something to get to think of as well. You don't need to take the lease back wise. It's really a security option for you, so you don't need to worry about the asset. I think it's incredible because I don't want, if I'm investing in Calgary wise, I don't want to have to worry about the asset. And this really is a hands-off investment wise. Now, what I wanted to compare is the value of the investment wise. So because 28 Eastern launched this past weekend wise, I use that as an example. Ontario land transfer tax. So the example here, the price of the unit in Toronto, very similar size, 645 square feet compared to 651 square feet. The price of the unit would be $774,990 versus $338,990. So on $774,990 in Toronto, the Ontario land transfer tax on that is nearly $12,000. The Toronto land transfer tax is another $12,000. Other development charges, your development charges are capped at $13,900, plus there's usually about $8,000 of other charges. So the total closing costs buying in Toronto wise is nearly $46,000 versus zero in Calgary or Alberta wise. So that's a savings right off the bat in regards to closing cost wise. From a price standpoint, again, similar size units, 128% higher in Toronto versus Calgary wise, 128%. Maintenance fees are 53% higher in Toronto versus Calgary. Now rent is higher. If I looked at the current rent, not even the current, this is post-COVID rent, pre-COVID rent of $3.44 in Toronto wise, not Toronto, in this specific neighborhood that 28 Eastern is in, versus $2.53 where the building is going in the Kensington area. So Toronto is 34% higher in regards to the rent per square foot wise, but my maintenance costs are over 50% higher, and the pricing wise is over 100 or 125% higher. So that's why we're able to get a positive cash flow environment in Calgary, and we're buying at the bottom of the market, which gives us the upside as well. So here's a great thing, and Mark will help me with this slide a little more, especially that first line. No new launches since 2017. Let's get into that a little more. Why don't you talk about what's been going on in the Calgary market since 2017 in new product-wise?
Sure. In terms of condo development for sale, very little. So what happened over the course of about 20 years is the Calgary market just kind of flips back and forth. So for 20 years, there was absolutely no rentals built in Calgary, nothing. And they were flipping actual rental buildings into condos. And so now the market flipped, and in the core, they're building lots of, everyone's flipped to purpose-built rentals in the core, the downtown area. And so there's lots of rentals coming on in that area, and that just shows that there's absolutely nothing else being built except for a couple of projects. So there's less than 485 new condo units remains in the inner core. That is the concrete apartments, brand new, pre-construction, or stuff that's spec, and nothing planned for the next couple of years. So there's going to be a big vacuum there, and obviously when there's a low amount of property, what's going to happen is prices are going to increase, and that's what it looks like for the next 3 to 4 years. And of course, you have to understand how long it takes these projects to come on. So if they already have, if they're already planned and have a development permit, it's no problem. But getting to that point takes several years. So.
Yeah, and why I bring this up, there was a Globe and Mail article that recently came out talking about unsold new inventory, but that's talking about the whole greater Calgary area wise. But when we look at these specific desirable neighborhoods wise, in the downtown core, only 10 sites with inventory of 124 units available in downtown core, which is selling at an average PSF of 691. Then when we go to the inner core, which includes Kensington neighborhood wise, only 485 units remain in the inner core. So there isn't a large supply when we're looking at these specific areas wise. And again, if you talk to anyone in Calgary, Kensington is one of the most desirable areas that you want to live in. And as Mark says, it's very difficult to get dirt in the annex neighborhood, because if you're looking in not the annex neighborhood, sorry, in the Kensington neighborhood, because it is such a historic location, it's difficult to get things there, right, Mark?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of, like, again, 100-year-old buildings and homes. If they do a tear down on a house, usually turns into semi-detached, selling for more than $1 million a side.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to know. So you do have a divide. Some people will bring up, oh, well, I can get a detached home in Calgary for $500,000, and yeah, but not in the Kensington neighborhood. So
if you get one for $500,000, it's going to be a hole in the ground.
Yeah, and that's where you do have a divide between a space between the condo product and the freehold product in this neighborhood. So pro-investment wise, so Alberta overall is pro-investment. So no rent control in Calgary wise. So you have the ability to increase your rent if the market allows for it. So what I mean, if the market allows for it, if the market's willing to accept your rental increase, then you can increase the rent to whatever you want. There's no foreign buyer tax. So Vancouver, foreign buyer tax. Toronto, foreign buyer, well, I shouldn't just say Toronto. All of Southern Ontario, there's a foreign buyer tax, but you don't have a foreign buyer tax in Alberta, and you never will have a foreign buyer tax. So we talk about international money, and when international money wants to flow into Canada-wise overall, Calgary will be the next destination point. We've seen prices increase in Vancouver. We've seen prices increase in Toronto. For some reason, we see huge condo demand in Montreal. We've seen it happen in Ottawa. And Ottawa does not have a foreign buyer tax. Calgary was going to be the next one. It's a tier 1 city. You're going to see money flowing there. Cash flow positive product, prime downtown locations. We have the $10 billion stimulus package, which includes reducing corporate taxes, no land transfer tax, no provincial sales tax, no development charges. It is just such a great area to invest in, and especially being able to invest in when it's bottomed out. So we are going to get now to the question and answer period now, but if you are interested in moving forward, basically all you need to do, we will be sending a recap of this which will include the video wise, would include floor plans and available units in the building. Building's 108 units, and it's probably it's over 50% sold, only about 50 or so units left. And of those 50 or so units, part of those are larger units. So depending on what you're looking for, there is the smaller inventory is gradually going down. They're selling a couple units every week wise, and demand has really been picking up. You fill out the suite request form, and then we go to the builder and secure a unit wise, and they'll email you an agreement to purchase and sale. And like in Ontario wise, there is a 10-day cooling off period once you sign on the agreement, as well as you can book a call with me to go over and discuss the project more. I usually do a couple of those calls per day. So let's jump into questions. I'm sure you guys have some.
Yes, there's none in the Q&A panel, but I see a couple in the chat. So Alex, do you need to put 20% down on these condos?
Okay, so only 5% down when you secure a unit today, but when you go get a mortgage on the property, if you're not moving into it, typically on an investment property, you do have to round up to 20%. That's what the bank will require for a mortgage wise. So you do not need 20% today, but most likely in the future, if you're closing on it as an investment product, you're gonna have to round up to 20%.
And that applies to all investment condos. You always
all investment condos, whether you're Toronto, whether you're Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal, anywhere. That's a federal government requirement wise. Your second investment property requires 20% down.
And in building your portfolio, Alex, have you worked with tier 1 banks or lesser ones? You work with a mortgage broker? What do you normally do?
I've worked with everyone. I've worked directly with the banks. I've worked with mortgage brokers. I've done private borrowing on some of my commercial stuff and redevelopment stuff. I've done every type of borrowing. I've been exposed to every type of borrowing. And that's where we talk about assignments wise. You're always better off closing on a property. And as for those that have attended our leverage seminar, which is on Thursdays with Amit Puri, you can always get a mortgage. It just depends on how much it's going to cost. So there's always an opportunity to get a mortgage wise. The next question here, when you saw so Mark, this is probably better for you. When you saw the market fall 2016 to 2018, did you deal with a lot of vacancies in your unit? Also, why would Minto need to drop prices so heavily, cut margins? Is this a COVID issue or did they misjudge demand? COVID. It was straight up COVID. Mark, I remember when this launched in February, it went like, I swear to God, it was like the week of that COVID shut things down.
Totally, yeah, it was actually, and we had quite a few sales, and then nobody knew what was going on, and things were shutting down, and it just all kind of like, as in Toronto and everywhere, it all just kind of fell apart, and so we just decided to hold off and see what was going to happen. Sometimes when there's Minto's not a discount company, and they don't discount. But sometimes when you have projects, like this one was going to be one that we almost built out and then sold as finished suites and that. And we have, like Alex had said, we have about 2,500 more units coming in, not only in the inner city, which is not 2,500, it's only a couple of hundred, but we also have a couple of communities that are going to open up quickly. And sometimes it's just about moving money around. And so if they discount this one and move it out to our investors, it's kind of a win-win situation for, even though they're a multi-billion-dollar company, sometimes you just have to move money around. So
yeah, I'll jump on that a little more as well. That's 100% what it is. Because they're a multi-billion-dollar company, they just look at what's my cost-benefit analysis. So their cost-benefit analysis is, I can take X period to sell these at a certain set price point wise, or I can reduce the price, move all these units. So it's basically an inventory sellout, move all the units, and I'm going to take the money, I'm going to make a higher return somewhere else. So it's really just a time value of money. And they have the ability, because they are so large. If I was a small company wise, a small time builder wise, or medium-sized builder wise, I would need the time to sell these units to get my return on my investment wise.
100%.
Like, okay, well,
That's perfectly accurate.
I'm going to make more money. I'm going to make more money over there. So let's just drop the pricing so I can make the money over there.
Right. And Alex, there was another question in there about the market 2018 to 2019. I didn't quite catch it.
Oh yeah. Was there vacancy in your units 2016 to 2018 when we saw
in my personal units? No, I had, I think in 2017, I gave 1 month away free. And then in 2018, all of a sudden the rental market absolutely went on fire again. So, we always have migration to Calgary. 2016, there was a lot of layoffs in 2015 and 2016. There was actually just a slight bit of negative migration. And then it flipped again in 2018, 2019, where people were migrating to Calgary again. And again, because of the livability of the city and, people selling out of Toronto, people selling out of Vancouver, coming here and buying properties for the change in their couch.
Yeah, and has there ever really been a vacancy issue in Calgary?
No. When we get really heavy migration from super low, employment rates or unemployment rates, I should say, then it becomes an issue. We'll hit under 1%. And and then.
But you've never really had a high vacancy issue, have you?
No. No.
So what it is, and I actually get this vacancy question a lot, and it kind of perplexes me, because A, you have a rental guarantee, so your unit will be 100% occupied. But B, when we have a vacancy issue in Toronto right now because borders are closed, okay? So there's a vacancy issue in Toronto right now because borders are closed. This is a man-made issue, which is going to be resolved in a year. When markets turn, so when you actually go down, people still need roofs over their head. So if pricing is going down in a market-wise, real estate pricing is going down, that means activity has slowed down. But people still need roofs over their heads. So it doesn't mean that people aren't living there anymore. They're just changing how they're transacting with the roofs over their heads. So instead of buying, they're actually going to be renting wise. So it doesn't end up being you won't see a large vacancy issue in a city wise that is in a bust period, unless you're seeing population declines.
And that's kind of the beauty of Calgary. It doesn't matter what kind of market we have. There's always renters and there's always fairly low vacancies.
So Mark, I'm just plugging my computer because my computer's dying.
We lost Alex.
Yeah, I'm just right here. Losing some power. So another great question here, because it does flow into that in the supply. So if you're going to help me address this, there are reports in Calgary there is an oversupply of condos, just about 5,000 units under construction, and prices have dropped 10% over the past year. Yeah, which we did address. Talk about the supply. Can you talk about the supply of the condos under construction? So that goes in that Globe and Mail article that went out.
Sure. In some of the suburbs, they have pushed heavily into condos. So when you're looking at averages, of course, you're going to have a skewed numbers because you're looking at the suburbs and the downtown core. So there's quite a few buildings that are coming on the market into that I said that had their purpose-built rentals, and they're all getting soaked up into the rental market. And here I had one of my clients who bought into Era telling me about one of his other units that they put on the market, and they had tons and tons of calls. The other side of it, with the private investors, find it a little bit easier to find renters than necessarily the big purpose-built rental buildings.
Perfect. I'm just providing, someone requested the tax rate. So here's the Calgary property tax calculator for you to calculate your property taxes. I have calculated the property tax for everyone in my analysis wise, because I have to calculate the cash flow. So you'll see that analysis in the price breakdown that I send to everyone. Okay, so what we have here, totally appreciate the 3-year rental, but just thinking 5 to 8 years from now, the build and bust reputation, obviously just what we hear from Toronto, great to hear their song. Okay. I think that yeah, 5 to 8, that's great 5 to 8 years from now. So if anyone, Ali, to comfort you, I bought an Era and my unit will be done in 2023 and then I get 2 years. So that's 2025. So my ownership wise goes into 2025, 2026, depending on when the building's constructed wise. So I'm actually owning in that more projection of the 5 to 8 years out wise. And if you want to sell sooner than the end of the 3-year rental guarantee, you have the ability to opt out of the rental guarantee as well. There's always ways to do things with the project. Now I also noticed there's a question here. The 5% down, can you get that kind of, okay, 5% down, can you get that kind of number here in Toronto, or only in Calgary can you get 5% down? You're not going to find a 5% down project here in Toronto wise. Plus you're going to have all the closing costs associated with the project as well. So to find, in a $400,000 purchase, let's say in annex wise, that's 20% down. Kyle, are there any projects you can buy in Toronto with 20, sorry, is there any projects in Toronto you can buy with $20,000?
No, not even close.
Are there any projects in the GTA you can buy with $20,000?
No.
So the answer,
difficult to even do in Calgary, actually.
Yeah. And again, the reason you're able to do it here is you have a $1 billion company behind you, which also has a publicly traded REIT behind them as well. You have a secured money behind it that allows them to finance this type of thing. The projects are just too big and too expensive to do in Toronto wise. They just can't do them anymore, because what it is the deposit, 5% down, or the 20% down, or the 15% down when we're looking in Toronto wise. That money, that deposit money, the banks, to give the construction loans, are looking at that money wise. So what the banks and want to see is they want to see those deposits in the trust accounts in order for them to unlock the lending wise in order to build these buildings. And when we look at these buildings, so they're so large in Toronto wise, these are 400 million, 500 million, in some cases $1 billion projects wise. So you need the construction financing to do these projects wise. And land is so expensive in Toronto wise, you do need that scale in these developments wise to get these projects done. While you're able to do it in Calgary, because you have a lower cost basis that you're working from, and they can do this type of promotion on the lower deposit wise because the projects aren't as expensive. I guess that's a quite detailed answer, but that's why you can do it out there. And because you're dealing with a deep pocket builder wise, they can offer that up. Ooh, that was a big mouth of words. So
you okay?
Are there any more questions from anyone?
Natasha, one more. If the unit ends up being vacant at any point, do you still get the rental guarantee?
Yes. So it's a lease back program wise, whether the unit is empty, whether it's full, no matter what the rent is, you're going to get that rent check at the beginning of the month for that set rent that's calculated by the formula. 6% of the purchase price divided by 12. That is your rent for 3 years. Guarantee. That's why I call it a rental guarantee, but it's really a lease back by the builder. The builder is leasing it from you for 3 years. Any other questions? And again, this whole recording will go out to everyone wise. It'll be sent. And if you do have any further questions, you can email us back. You can schedule a Zoom call with me to discuss. And I'd love to talk to everyone more about it, because I truly believe it's a great opportunity wise. And I wouldn't be taking all this time to promote it to people if I didn't think it was a good opportunity. I've put my own money there because we see people and they want to know, where's my next growth opportunity? And just all the stars are pointing towards Calgary to really be the next one to take off. So happy to talk to people more about it. And anything else anyone wants to add? Mark, thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex.
Other than that, I need a haircut. Okay, so everyone, thanks so much for coming. You'll get the recap and we'll talk to everyone soon. Okay, bye guys.
Bye everyone.